mentioned part of your demographic as being people coming out of school.
Mhm.
What would you say in terms of encouraging them or not encouraging them to use that time while they're in school to find their niche? I wonder if people could actually start earlier on, really putting that question in the back of their mind and saying, well, what music is inspiring me the most? What do I think I play the best? You
Yeah.
know, what pieces do I play that audiences react to the best?
Well, first they have to get the ultimate guide because
Of course, naturally.
because it walks them through the process. But self promotion aside, I think, look, you definitely, just because you know when you're younger, you don't always know where you're going to go. So I think the
Right.
idea of a well-rounded musical education is great. The way the book is written, it's intended to start to get you thinking about those exact aspects that you mentioned. What is it that I tend to play well? Maybe even more important than that, or equally important, is being honest about what you're willing to do to get to where
Mhm.
you want to get in art. I think the worst thing about today's music education system is it does not prepare you for the realities of making a career in this field. I mean, really, most teachers don't give their students options of what they can do. I know of teachers who basically say, well, good luck. Good luck. And I think the worst thing we could have is teachers teaching who don't want to teach, and performers performing who don't want to perform. So
Right.
I think the
Right.
questions have to be asked early on, very early on.
Right. And I think sometimes, again, I think there are a lot of wonderful things about the way that at least that I received my education. But sometimes I do wonder, I do think there was a gap in there. And so I'm asking a lot of those questions now, which is fine. But I think I wish I had had a little more of a glimpse
Yeah.
of the range of possibilities.
I think, in all fairness to the schools and the education system as far as music goes, I don't know if they are aware of all the options. I think these options that we're talking about now have been created by these artists who get out and go, what the heck is happening? What do I do now? And so now we
Right.
look to those artists. And, when I see a Christopher O'Reilly, I go, oh, well,
Yeah.
if he can do Radiohead, surely I can play whatever the heck I want to play. And if he can
Absolutely.
host, probably the most popular NPR based radio show around, why can't I have a radio show or a TV show? So it's like those artists kind of give us a model and permission to try other things. And I think the scariest part of that, and I talk about it a bit in the Ultimate Guide and even more on Stalking Superwoman, is this idea of, it's okay to be multifaceted. It's okay to have a diversified career. And by doing that, it doesn't mean that you're secretly disguising the fact that you can't do something else. So that advice is to make a list of your strengths and weaknesses musically, and maybe in regards to your work ethic, and then maybe in regards to what your other talents are outside of just playing the instrument. What else can you be doing that supplements the performance part of your art, not in a way that takes away from it, but adds to your entire brand as an artistic product.
Right. And that's a very, I think, a different way of thinking when somebody comes fresh out of school
Oh
because
yeah.
spent so many years just literally in a practice room most of the time.
Hmm. That's right.
But then to think about other aspects is just, I think, can be quite daunting for those students. My hope is that they would also realize that it can be awfully fun.
It
And
can be,
yeah,
because as you said, it's a process of self-discovery, which is exciting.
right. And I think in the end, it ends up with more well-rounded musicians that are much more interesting to go hear perform. I think some people's reaction might be that, especially in times like this when the economy is so shaky, is that kind of a dangerous thing to be doing, to be striking out in your own direction? How would you respond to that? How would you, calm some people's fears about making a move like that
Yeah.
in a
Well,
time that we're facing like right now?
I think what I can tell you is that, at least for me, it would be more dangerous for me to stay in this one position.
Mm-hmm.
There are no guarantees when I strike out, and meaning strike out into another direction. But
Right.
what I can guarantee you now is that if I stay on kind of this very limited path, my options are also very limited. And then I'm forced to look at the odds of succeeding on this very limited path. And those odds are not so great. So I can continue to be very optimistic that maybe those odds will get better. Maybe I'll meet the right person who will introduce me to the right conductor, who will then book me in 2013 because 2012 is pretty much booked up by now. And then I can
Right.
wait it out and hope. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not waiting on that. And
Mm-hmm.
danger um, is lessened because the things that I'm trying are things that I have always been doing, but have never been utilizing them or haven't really utilized them to the extent that I could in my career. And so I'm simply saying, you know what? What could go wrong? The only thing that could go wrong is that this one area, doesn't work. But at least I can try that thing that I'm good at and give it a chance to be of benefit to me and to my household. I'm very proud to be able to have my own financial responsibilities within our family structure. Um, and my husband always says that, when I sign the big $1 million contract, he's totally gonna quit working and stay home with Jade. So we're both looking forward to that day. So I think the danger again is in staying put and not utilizing your other God-given talents. I think it's really a crime to put those things on lockdown just because you're worried what other people will think if you show
Right.
how talented you really are. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it is. It is. But it's amazing how powerful fear can be.
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, of people accepting you. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think what's changed is the who am I trying to be successful in front of? That's changed. So I have another question for you, and it's sort of a selfish question.
Okay.
I, my husband and I are not entrepreneurial in the slightest. I mean, we're dreamers.
Mm-hmm.
We come up with great ideas.
Join
We
them.
are always patting ourselves on the back and saying, brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
But neither of us are very good at making things happen. And in all honesty, it scares us witless. What what do you say to somebody like little old me?
Mm.
If we don't have, I mean, I truly think it's a talent to be entrepreneurial. That's so what do you do if you don't have that natural gift that you
Well,
have? You
Well,
know,
I don't know how natural it is. I think it really has grown. It's been birthed out of necessity for me. So I know that it is possible to become more entrepreneurial. Doesn't mean you're going to be a good entrepreneur. So what
right?
I think it goes back to is making that list of your strengths and weaknesses. And I know that my weakness is can sometimes be the full picture of the business plan. So now some of the most important people um, business wise in my life, or one lady is an executive at ExxonMobil, and I'll be
Oh
meeting
wow.
her in 2 weeks. Her specialty is creating business plans. And it's a matter of making use of the people who have talents other than yours. Because you and your husband are both artists, if I remember
Right,
correctly.
right, right.
So that's like a double whammy, right? So you have two artists
Exactly.
trying to be
I'm
business.
not sure. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. I don't know. It's
It, you know,
just the way
just,
it
it's just the way it is. And then you
is.
enlarge your team with people who know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
With social media, I was kind of on tons of sites, but I was getting too busy to use everything. So that's why everybody always hears me or sees me tweeting about Rosebrook Classical, because they're like my social media manager, and they do things that I would have never thought to do with social media. So I think it's about expanding your team.
Now, was that hard for you to do since you said at the beginning that you like to be in control? Was
Yeah.
that hard for you to let go of all that and to say, yes, I need outside people?
With Rosebrook Classical, they approached me first. And honestly, in that first conversation, I was like, you're calling at the perfect time because I'm at the point where I want to delete all my profiles on everything. But I said, I got to be honest with you. If working with you means that I'm then going to have to micromanage yet another thing. I'd rather drown in my own, quagmire of social media. And
Sure.
great thing about David Westy runs Rosewood Classical is they're proactive. So there are
Mhm.
things that I look for in a team because if that person's proactive, I like it if they know more than me about the subject, and that their wheels are turning on my behalf while I'm doing things like practicing. But I think it's crucial to just know your team members, um, and make sure they have the same values as you and they know your brand. That's
Mhm.
huge. When they know your brand, then you're not worried that they're out there misrepresenting it.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, and I think that brings up another good point, the whole brand thing.
Yeah,
I don't think everyone thinks of having a brand, and that goes back to the whole finding your niche,
yeah. The
right?
branding thing is difficult because it's always been exclusive to the business world. Um,
Mhm.
and now, because of reality TV and superstar entertainers, we've taken branding. It's very trendy word right now, almost to the point where we don't
Right.
like it so much. But now you have
Right.
individuals who are branding themselves. Take Bethany Frankel of New York Housewives fame, I think, and now she has
Right.
her own brand and Skinny Girl cocktails. And then you have and Snooki, from the Jersey Shore, has her own
Right.
brand. And Lady Gaga is probably the most successful
Uh,
modern day entertainment brand. I mean, we don't even
right.
know. Most people have no idea how many places she really is because we just see her on stage and in music videos. But she's with Kodak and doing all these things behind the scenes. And so now we've kind of been giving permission to brand, and classical music organizations have been given for music to brand, permission to brand, but individual musicians that are in the classical world are still finding that a little bit um, taboo in a way. But it because they haven't had to. I mean, the underlying belief is that the cream rises to the top, and the very best musicians will always have a career. But we're at the
Mhm.
point now where everybody's basically a virtuoso. So how do they stand out? And we'll see some missteps. There's a young performer recently who is in all the blogs because she wore a very tight short dress, and it was
Right.
surprising to me because if I were branding her, I would say her brand didn't need that kind of a move. I would love to dress her, by the way, but for whatever reason, that's what she felt like she wanted to do, and it may or may not have a backlash because she had already built an audience that was expecting one thing. So I think that's what's really important about branding is being honest about who you're playing for.
I seriously feel like the audiences that don't understand classical music as much, they want authenticity and they want connection with whoever it is that they're engaged with.
Well, and
Um,
their first point of contact is your brand. They'll say, that's either me or it's not, and they make a decision. But if all
right.
it says is, Erica Sipes piano, they don't know what
They'll
to
be
do
like,
with that. What kind of
here I got.
piano? Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
Look, I think it's an exciting time to be an artist that's outside of the mainstream who wants to work their way maybe into the mainstream framework or wants to just kind of live their lives in a neat underground setting. I think it's just about being fulfilled and admitting what you need. I talk a lot in the Ultimate Guide about dispelling the taboo associated with money and admitting that you want to actually be able to make a living from your art. So
Hmm.
those are some things you have to be honest about again in the beginning, and then you can craft a plan to go after what you need.
Right. You've probably picked this up. I am maybe overly optimistic about everything because I just choose to see life that way. I-
It's a good way
It's
to
the
live.
only way I can get things done and get through the day. So, um, that's why I find you very refreshing,
Mhm.
and because I just sense incredible positivity and let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that because um, I think that gets us somewhere.